Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. And this is a special author spotlight edition. On this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, we are joined and bringing the spotlight on to debut author Lindo Forbes. Welcome to the podcast, Lindo.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Before I read your bio, you actually, we donated this author spotlight to the Maui wildfire auction that was put on by Lucy Eden. And, you know, it's just something little because this is fun and we always like to do what we can to help. And you bid on it and won. And now you're stuck with me forever. You didn't know that saying.
I had no idea. What a happy coincidence for me, because I'm quite thrilled to be stuck with you forever.
Yeah, you cannot get rid of us now. And I adore Lucy Eden. She is like, have you ever met her or talked to her anything?
I've not ever spoken to her, but I've read her books and I could not believe that she didn't, like, I know she ended up getting help, but that she had pulled all that together essentially by herself. It was bananas.
Yeah, she is a force. And really, I feel like if you want something done in Romancelandia, you just go to Lucy Eden.
Love it. I mean, I've seen videos of her put those boxes together.
Oh, she sells those. Like, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And she does it with like her editor and her PA in her Brooklyn apartment.
Amazing.
So amazing. But I am super excited that you are here with us. Like I said, you bid on it, won, and now I have pulled you into our readathon that we did a couple weeks ago when this podcast drops. And also now you're like stuck with us, like
so exciting.
Forever.
Thrilled about it.
That's what she says.
I was
now.
So nervous for you to read my debut novel, The Insufferable Mr. Fletcher. So knowing that you liked it definitely took some of the pressure off.
I really did. I really liked it. And it's we'll get into it a little bit too, but one of the things that I really like is the dynamic you brought with these characters, because they each felt fresh and unique. And sometimes, you know, we read coworkers, boss employee. These aren't really enemies to lovers. They're more adversaries.
It really, and honestly, it's so funny because whenever somebody asks me, "Oh, tell me about your book," and I explain it, they're like, "Oh, cute, enemies to lovers." I'm like, no, it's a one-sided feud. This poor man is being put through it. He is not an enemy. He's not even in the field of the war. Like, he's not even on the battlefield. Like, she's just throwing.
He's still back at base.
Yeah.
Still back at base, trying to like get a cup of coffee. Like, dude is just.
Yeah. And there she is, like, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And he's like, but can I just get to the kitchen?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things earlier today, I was trying to explain it to someone. I was like, I really liked him because he didn't feel like a project. He's not a hero that I felt like needed fixing. He just needed to be heard. Like,
yes,
all the pieces were there. He just needed to be able to communicate better.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, I am very proud to be a part of the romance, like genre romance. I'm proud of what those books do. I'm proud to say that I've joined the ranks of these stories, and still neither of my dum-dums change. Really. Like, at the end of it, they haven't really changed so much as they've understood that there's space. Like, they've had to make space for the other one, where it wasn't really like Junior's not any less like charming and flirty, and like she's not less opinionated. She's not less, domineering.
But I think she gained an understanding. Don't you think that her growth was in her ability to start to understand and recognize that sometimes it's not all about Junior? That
yes, maybe she does have to have that moment, bless her.
There are other voices in the room.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Becky, are you sure? Because Junior doesn't think that there are any other voices.
She really struggles with that. And it's really funny because I'm a lot like Junior. Like, I tell everybody, I'm a princess. I own the room. And My husband said to me in the car the other day, he's like, "You always get your way. You never not get your way." And I'm like, "There are sometimes I don't get my way." And he's like, "When?" And I'm like,
Uh, it
"Sometimes,
exists, just sometimes.
sometimes, sometimes."
Let's not dwell on specifics,
I,
husband.
I said, my iced coffee's gonna melt. We have to go inside now.
Yeah, like you can't talk about this anymore. Yeah, I just mean in the sense of often there is like a giant growth, and with Davis and Junior, what they had to overcome was their inability to, like you said, to communicate. Like they had a hard time saying exactly what they wanted to each other and still not being heard.
Yeah, the thing is because so this is a little bit lighter. It's more of a rom com. Um, I don't expect these huge emotional growths in a rom com romance. I want
Oh,
more of the
good.
real life realizations is what I want in these kind of,
Yes.
because this book was light and fluffy, and to be honest, right now in my life, this was the book I needed. I needed the joy that Junior brings us, and that Davis kind of wants, he thinks, he's sure, maybe. His indecisiveness is super attractive, and
Oh,
I don't know that I would say that about any other character.
I know, bless him. And it's so funny because when I first conceived Davis, he was way more like stern and buttoned down and like whatever. But then as I got to know him, which sounds ridiculous because I invented him, but as I got to know him, it became clear that actually he's just a big old goofball who has to put that on, has to put that stern and like because he's constantly trying to prove no, like where I come from and how I grew up and my challenges to get here do not define me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it also shows he showed his layers. Like he could have just been the pretty boy in the room.
Yes.
But because of his indecisiveness and where he has to move and the things he has to do and he puts on, it shows his layers as a character. And again, we get that real life character arc and development that you can see yourself in or see your partner in, which sometimes I like in romance.
And it was fun to fill their world with people like foils for them. You know, it was really fun to fill their world and to say, oh, well, Junior has these friends, and now Davis has some of the same friends, but he came to those friendships organically, right? Like he didn't gain them in the relationship and then lose them in the divorce, right? Like he became friends with some of her friends all by himself. And so to see those people sort of in the middle of like, no, dummy, like it's fine, just date him. Who cares? Like it's
Right. Right. Well, these two characters do like to get in their way a lot.
yes,
They get in their own way. Um and there are moments where I'm just like, could we just like not be dumb for 2 minutes? Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes make not dumb choices. And it's not dumb choices
please
as much as get out of your head.
don't overthink it. Don't
No.
overthink it.
So one of the great things about this book is Junior's character, and she has a lot of rich culture and who she is. She's Afro Latino and she's beautiful. Like, and I love your cover. I'm obsessed with your cover. Um,
Thank you.
and so for you to write that, are you, and you are a BIPOC author, which, you know, kudos for you because it's hard to come into an industry that is so white dominated and you to be like, I'm putting my story and this is my story and here it is. Read it, people. And I'm serious, guys. Read it, people. um, but did you put a little bit of yourself into Junior?
The parts of me that are in juniors that we share the identity of being Panamanian. I'm my father is Panamanian, so
Okay.
I'm only half Latina. Um, but I gave Junior that. I gave her being someone who has very strong ties to Latin America, being a Central American, like first generation Canadian of Central American descent, but who is Black, not mixed, not biracial, not just a Black woman who has Latin American roots. And so we share that, and we share like big family, loud, chaotic, big, loving family. We have that. Um, but everything else, like Junior has two Panamanian parents. I only have one. Junior grew up speaking Spanish in a way that I did not. I mostly answered in English when my father. I mean, even to this day, my dad leans into me and like, because he'll just whisper in Spanish because he likes to talk shit about people around us in Spanish. So,
Love that.
so it's not like I don't understand and the words weren't spoken to me, but I just always answered in English. So Junior grew up with all four of her Panamanian grandparents, speaking, well, sorry, with three of them, because one of her grandparents died before she was born, but, speaking the language and having grandparents around and doing that. So she has more connection to that culture than I do personally, but I did give her that specifically for that reason.
It was really intriguing to me because all cultures, I'm just very intrigued by culture and the family dynamics because I do not have a big family and I don't, and what little family I have is not an overly close family. Um, and so I find it incredibly enchanting, but I'm so curious about large, big, loud families and that dynamic and how it kind of shapes who you are. And I think for Junior, that's why she was able to be so charming and so flirtatious into the world because she'd been charming this very large population of family.
Yeah. And it's also something that I was adamant to show. I'm very, very Canadian, very, very much from Toronto. And this is normal to me to be surrounded by lots of first generation people where everybody that I grew up with had at least one grandparent at home who either did not speak English at all or spoke English with a very heavy accent, whether that accent be Scottish or Greek or Filipino, like, but there was a grandparent at home with a very strong accent.
Yeah.
So it was important to me to sort of show that Junior is Canadian and she's proudly Canadian and still has this other thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting. My husband's grandmother immigrated from Australia. And
Mm-hmm.
while I adored her accent, I always wondered, what would that have been like as a kid to have your grandmother who has just a little bit different accent or than everybody
Yeah.
else? I mean, she was this sweet little Irish Australian lady that, you know,
I
drank tea
mean,
and
that
charmed
sounds
you.
fabulous.
Oh, she was a goddess. Like this lady could not say enough nice things about her. Um,
Amazing.
so charming. Uh, but so Canadian, the book takes place in Toronto.
Hmm.
And it was interesting because I said something before we started recording. I forget often that Toronto is kind of a hub for the film and TV industry because the backdrop of this book is kind of, I took it to be like an epic fantasy, like Game of Thrones ish
Yeah,
serial.
I, yeah, I thought of it as sort of like an urban fantasy because
Okay.
I wrote out the outline of four seasons of this show because the earlier drafts, the earlier drafts had more of the making of it, and I
Okay.
quickly moved away from that because making TV is very boring. So
Do you work
I
in
quickly,
TV like on your day
I
job?
do,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So you're like
So
totally in it.
yeah, so I was like making TV, like reading about going on survey and a production meeting, and like that is boring. So let us move quickly away from the nitty gritty of making TV and let's just gloss over. It's a TV show. There's witches and body snatching, and
There's
that's all you
a
need to
there's a
know.
mystic, a fantasy type vibe.
Yes.
Um, but again, it brought up and made me remember that Toronto is this hub for the movie industry. And it's interesting because I love a Hollywood norm romance, like movie star, falls in love with the mechanic or the movie star falls in love with the waitress. Like I'm all for those books, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
sign me up. I love them. Um, but I also like the production side, but we don't get a ton of Hollywood esque starlet type romances set in Toronto, in Canada. And now I want to know why.
I don't know why. There it's Lily Chu has one where It's called The Stand-In,
Oh
and I
yeah.
think that they're two very like hugely famous Chinese stars, and our hero, the Toronto girl, looks like the one, so they hire her, and then hijinks ensue. But even then, it's not really. It's more about the famous person and not about actual, the making of
Of
the
yeah.
TV show.
I loved it. I thought it was great and it felt fresh and new. Um and I'm all for innovative new thoughts on romance. And that was something else different you did in this book. And we talked about a little bit over on Readathon about miscommunication and those dark moments. And I wouldn't say that Davis and Junior, they don't have a breakup, right? You wouldn't say it's a third act breakup.
No, what I
It's,
would say is that
it's a dark moment, but
it
it's
is a
more of
dark
a
moment.
realization.
Yes. And that because of the way they got together, which was Davis standing still and waiting for Junior to land, right? Like just staying still and waiting for her to let him in. And he did that for the majority of their relationship, so that when she finally pushes too far, he pushes back. And in that is where their dark moment comes from.
Yeah. And I again, it felt fresh and innovative. And I really liked that you did that because I am pro third act breakup, but this book didn't need one. This book didn't need one because you gave me enough emotion and enough push that I knew choices were going to have to be made.
Yes.
And I liked that.
And that for the most part, I mean, this is definitely, it's told in dual POV, but it's Junior's story. And in as much as I tried to make Davis as like real and fleshed out and relatable as I could, it's about Junior. So to she needed the come to Jesus moment. Like she needed to figure some things out. She needed to accept some things, and that's where that the dark moment comes from.
So the Insufferable Mr. Fletcher comes out on December 5th. What is
Mm-hmm.
the scariest part of all of this for you? What has been like
Oh,
the scariest thing for you in this?
well, aside from my colleagues reading it and then being like, is that about Lisa? Like, and it's not, but like, aside from that fun that I'm going to walk into, it's just being perceived. It's weird. Like I wrote this as a challenge to myself. And so now putting it out there and having people read it and then having people have opinions about it. And listen, I am a reader. Like I read at least 300 titles a year. I have read books that I don't like. I don't think everybody's going to love this. It's not pizza. I'm ready for people to just not like it. You're allowed to not like it. It's just very weird to be perceived in this fashion.
What is the best thing that this experience has given you?
But I'm going to be perceived for being a writer.
That you're a writer now. You're an author.
I'm an author. I wrote a
Lindo
book.
Lindo Forbes wrote a book and she is a published author.
That's right, y'all. I mean, God knows that was not the plan.
Well,
But I've got book two. It's almost the first draft of book two is almost done, and I've got an outline for book three. So
it's so
guess what,
awesome.
Becky? You said you didn't want rid of me, and now you are not going to be rid of me.
I'm here for the long haul. To me it is so amazing. It gives me chills because I cannot write the words. I am not an author. I will fix your words. I will help your story. That's where my gift is. The knowledge I have of the genre, of the reader. That's my gift into the world. But authors, I have this awe of what you can do and the narrative you can write, the worlds that you can build, the descriptions that you can give. Because, like, I always think it's weird when we do like our quick shots with book review ones and we start talking about these characters like they're real people, you know?
Yeah.
And I think people listen to this and they must think we are insane. Like, I'm still holding a grudge against a character I read 2.5 years ago.
Would you like to know some of my grudges?
I
Because
would
I got
love to hear your grudges.
TK Knight can get these hands. He's from Alexa Martin's. Oh, I can't can't remember which one, Fumbled or
Yeah, isn't that book
what,
2?
book two.
That's the secret
He
baby, right?
he never says sorry to Poppy.
He never does. He doesn't. I just did a reread of that series because someone was like, he has Travis Kelsey vibes from the Taylor Swift, Kelsey
Hmm.
kind of romance that's happening right now. And I was like, does he? He
I
does.
wouldn't say that. And I was in for the whole thing. I understood how it came to be that the baby was like I was in the whole way. I even understood why he reacted the way he did when she said, "Okay, I gotta tell you something. I have a kid and it's yours." And I was like, "Girl, what?" Like all of that was fine,
Yeah.
but he called that woman everything but a child of God, and he never said sorry.
Yeah.
Trevor Kyle Knight, listen, sir.
You should
Also,
send Alexis a message and be like, sister, I need you to know he and I, fisticuffs, duel at
mhm.
dawn.
And then Denise Williams, How to Fail at Flirting. She has a character named Davis. Her Davis is a bad guy. And I can't remember the love interest name, but I'm mad at him because, sorry, spoiler if you haven't read it, it is a delightful book. At the end, there is some very, very dubious consent business going on, and he gets caught. The bad guy, Davis, gets caught, basically attempting to assault our hero. And the love interest comes around the corner and says, Jolie, like, how could you touch her? La, 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 la. But at no point does he say, no means no, because that was the bad Davis's argument. It was like, well, she said it was okay. Like, she said, yes, she was all over me. And at no point did he say, it doesn't matter if she was all over you. I heard her say no. You should have stopped. Dude, the fuck?
Yeah. So I think Denise Williams likes to kind of toy with our emotions a little bit in her books because
Right.
Fastest Way to Fall,
Mm-hmm.
like the hero in that book, I want I think is Wes. Wes is the hero in that book. And he's kind of playing hidden identity, like he's the owner of the app, but also training the heroine. Have you read that one?
I started it, yes.
He he makes me so mad because I was like, oh, he's like this really cute cinnamon roll. But then in the end, he kind of was a bit of a douche. And it was
Right?
like, Mister,
Mm-hmm.
please,
Mm-hmm.
sir, could you? I love the book. I really enjoyed the book. And Teddy Hamilton is the narrator. And I can't think of who the female narrator is, but
It's
was,
usually January Lavoie.
she was amazing. I'm going to look because Najama Karma.
Okay, because usually January Lavoie narrates Denise's books, and January's amazing.
Yeah, Najama Karma, she's very good too. Very good. Um, yeah, it was just like, he kind of
See?
was an
So I'm
ass.
just saying, I understand the whole, these people are not real, madam. Stop being angry at fictional people. I won't. I will not.
No.
I say nay. They deserve my ire. You know who else deserves my ire? Fitz. He was awful to Millie. It's Sherry Thomas's Tempting the Heiress, something the heiress. The historical,
What are we talking?
and he was in love with someone else. He's impoverished Earl. She's the tin goods heiress. Uh, yeah, he's another one. Fitz. He can get it.
He can take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna punch him right in his aristocratic nose.
I have more than once messaged an author and been like, I'm really pissed off you. There's one author, Lexi Ryan. I loved the heroine in the hero in her first book of her Jackson Brothers series. Like, I loved them. It was a
Hmm.
runaway bride, a nanny romance. He was swoony. He was so good. But part of the reason that she ends up being a nanny for him is her sister's the one who actually took the job. But her sister slept with the sister's groom that she ran away
Oh,
from and ended up pregnant by the groom. And they told her right before the wedding, and she ran away and took the nanny job for her twin sister. In the final book in that series, the author gives a redemption arc to the sister that slept with the groom.
no, thank you.
And in
No,
the
thank
end, but in the end, I hated the first couple because the sister did everything they asked her to do and more. And she asked for no help. Like, she was doing it all. She was paying her penance. She said her sorries. She said what had happened, and young and naive, and got taken advantage of, and paid the price. And the sister and the husband at that point were not kind to her, and were not like swoony, like completely unforgiving, and almost like mean to her, to the point that they were ruining things that were possible good for her in her life.
Mm.
And I'm like, I emailed Lexi Ryan, and I'm like, friend, we have a problem. And she's like, Becky, what's going on? And I was like, I'm really mad at you. And she's like, oh my God, what did I do? I was like, you made me like them and hate them, and I'm really upset about this. And she's like, oh, you're welcome.
Like, mission accomplished.
Yeah, it's one of those, I like a redemption arc, but when you make me love the villain and turn the good guys into the bad guy, I don't know how I feel about all that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. You know what you should do, Becky, to make yourself feel better? Get yourself a nice something to drink, curl up with a book, and that'll make it
It will make
better.
it feel better. I'm reading all these fun holiday romances, like these little novellas. I love this time of year, and all the little surprise releases that we get this time of year. They're so fun. They're so fun. But the Insufferable Mr. Fletcher also brought very good, happy, warm, fuzzy couch vibes. So people should check that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Fletcher is out December 5th. It's a close proximity, coworkers, rivals to lovers. Opposites attract romance. What is next? Because I'm not giving you time to sleep.
No. Next, we follow Lee, who is one of Junior's best friends, as she tumbles into a relationship with a younger man. So Lee's whole thing is that she has always, always, always been the responsible one. So that when she meets Quincy, who is, I believe, 12 years her junior, she's like, that is irresponsible. That does not make any sense for me to pursue anything with you, young man. Thank you for your interest. It's very flattering, but I bid you good day. And so we follow Lee as she tries to figure all those pieces out. And of course, Junior shows up and says, "Get it, girl, whatever." Because Junior, still happily in love with Davis, is a hedonist at heart.
Which I love. Which I absolutely love. Lindo, thank you so much for coming on and talking about the Insufferable Mr. Fletcher with me.
Thank you for including me now in your web of romance.
You're so welcome. You can never escape the chaos. Once you're in, you're stuck.
Love it.
Like I said, everybody, you can find the Insufferable Mr. Fletcher wherever you buy books. And Lindo has followings on social media and on Amazon, and I will link all of those in our On the Shelf show notes.
And I'm at Lindo Forbes at most. Like, it's the same handle at most of them.
Yep, I have a list. It'll be in all of our show notes, so you can go over and follow her and get signed up for all the things. Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at BuzzingAboutRomance or on Twitter at BuzzingRomance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.